When you think of Apple's design, the iconic iPod might come to mind with its revolutionary navigation wheel, perhaps the colorful iMacs, or the world-changing iPhone. And while all of those products are certainly notable, perhaps nothing embodies Apple's design philosophy more than this: the MagSafe MacBook charger. Although it may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Apple or a laptop, it perfectly captures Apple's philosophy of no detail left behind, as most computer companies gloss over chargers as an afterthought. Looking past the minimal aesthetics lie thoughtful, mindful, and even delightful design decisions. Apple didn't just stop at the form. They examined the context in which it's used, as charger cables often cross people's walking paths, increasing the chance someone might trip and yank the laptop to the floor, in which case it safely disconnects. It is specifically this heart-dropping scenario that Apple solved ahead of time with this clever solution and saved countless of MacBooks in repair costs for their users. But what makes the MagSafe charger so well designed is that it doesn't just power your MacBook. It talks to you. The minimal LED visually tells you from across the room that it's properly connected and charging by glowing orange, and informs you that your MacBook is fully charged by turning green, even if it's completely dark. Last but not least is the fulfilling click you hear as the charger snaps into place by itself, also using sound to let you know that it's connected properly. Now compare this to the new 2016 MacBook chargers. No magnet, no light, no sound. I can no longer tell if it's charging just by looking at it. The once life-saving, interactive accessory has turned lifeless. It is just another charger. This is without a doubt a downgrade in Apple's hardware design, and unfortunately it doesn't just stop there. They've made some really questionable decisions over the years, like the first generation iPad Pro's pencil sword, or not being able to use the Magic Mouse while charging. But those are negligible in contrast to their port standardization strategy. Along with killing the MagSafe charger in your MacBook models, Apple also eliminated the classic USB port in favor of the newer USB-C, which is more versatile and functional. Now, this by itself is a great step forward, but what followed next for other product lines left many people scratching their heads. iPhone, Apple Watch, and AirPod cables use USB, but the MacBooks don't have standard USB ports, which means that you can't connect your phone to a MacBook. That's right, the company once renowned for their philosophy of streamlining and simplifying doesn't allow you to connect one of their devices to another. At least without a dongle, which was one of Apple's top-selling products at Best Buy for the last 2 years. Oh, and if that's not confusing enough, they killed the headphone jack on iPhones and iPad Pros, but not MacBook Pros. The lack of consistency is astounding. Wireless charging is another area where Apple has clearly dropped the ball. They never released an official wireless charger. Instead, they left it up to consumers to find and trust third-party solutions. Coming from a company that loves to own the entire ecosystem, this is very un-Apple-like. Things further spiraled out of control in late 2017 when they announced AirPower, the first wireless Apple charger that could simultaneously charge iPhone, Apple Watch, and AirPods. Months and months went by, then an entire year passed, and the AirPower mat was nowhere to be found. Then finally, in early 2019, after a year and a half of delays, it was canceled entirely. This is a big deal. Apple didn't just cancel a product, they canceled an announcement for a product. Despite the fact that it was already printed on AirPod cases, mentioned on their website, the phrase AirPower was even embedded in iOS's dictionary. This is the same company that was obsessed with secrecy, so much so that Steve Jobs was known to chain demo devices to desks and have the desk wood grain pattern photographed as a sort of a fingerprint, so in case of a photo leak, the location of the leak could be identified. Once upon a time, Apple didn't announce a product until it was perfected. Nowadays, they announce products before they're even created. This departure in philosophy is seen more and more. Just 2 weeks ago, Apple announced an onslaught of media services that are coming soon with no release dates in sight. Now, does this mean that Apple has lost its way and can no longer innovate? I don't think so. They're still by far the most design-oriented consumer company at scale, despite these minor slip-ups. The good news is that it seems Apple is aware and actively fixing these flaws, such as the new iPad Pro stylus wirelessly charging alongside the iPad, and as of lately, patents of a new MagSafe version 2 charger circulating online, which also hints at a standardization across all devices, which would address the current protocol mess. I think the moral of the story is that quality design is extremely hard to achieve and perhaps even harder to maintain.